Hey guys, how's it going? Thank you for stopping by and checking out this video. So today, we got a viewer question. Hey, how about a timeline of your off-grid van life living for us newbies? So today is a really windy day in Quartzsite. Temperatures aren't bad, but it's windy. So I'm gonna sit in here and try to hide from the wind until it goes away. But I figured this would be a real good time to answer that question. So thank you very much, Dan G. Thank you for subscribing to the channel, and thank you for asking the question. So about 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago, I first saw the War Wagon. I had actually seen the War Wagon for a long time before I saw it with the intent of, maybe I could do something with that. And I had been, it was COVID had been going on, and I had I was a pawnbroker at the beginning of COVID, and I loved being a pawnbroker, and I was a damn good pawnbroker. But when they started giving stimulus checks out to everybody, that killed the pawn industry, and it basically turned us into a retail shop, and I ain't into that. So I bounced out of there and went back into facilities engineering and working on buildings and stuff like that. And while I was doing that, I started driving by this place that had this van sitting out of it, the War Wagon. And then one day I saw a post on Facebook Marketplace, and the van was listed there for sale. So the next day, on my way home from work, I knocked on the door at this guy's house, and I said, hey, I'm curious about your van out there and what you're doing with it. I pretended I didn't see the Facebook Marketplace ad. And the guy said to me, well, hey, I'm glad you stopped by. I've been waiting for you to come get it. So we went out and took a look at it, and it fired up. It ran really rough, but it fired up. It was, well, there's videos here. I'll leave you a link right here, or maybe down there, one or the other, of the first video on this channel is the day I go to pick the War Wagon up. So you can see what kind of condition it was in then. And then there are about 10 or 12 videos on here that show me bringing it home and ripping it apart, really. That was the first thing I needed to do, was just take everything out of it, because it had been sitting a long time and it had been well used. It still had the nasty green shag carpeting in where it hadn't been destroyed from use. The mice were living in it. The furnace didn't work. The refrigerator didn't work. There was no mattress or no bedding, no padding, no nothing like that. So I ripped all that out. Anyway, you guys can check out the videos if you want to see more detail on what I did to the van. And then I started building after I put it, after I got everything out of it and kind of a rough idea of what I was going to do. I started building, and I believe the first thing I did was put the flooring in it. I did a little bit of insulation, patched a couple little holes, screw holes and stuff like that. Put some insulation down and put the floor down. And then I started putting things back in. I put the sofa that I'm sitting on back in with the storage underneath it. I put the back end together with the, where the bed is now at one time, and I guess technically still could convert to a dining area. But it's just me in here, and I have a table that fits right here when we're cruising around, so I don't need that. So I made the bed for the War Wagon very comfortable. I stacked the 3 different kinds of memory foam to get it right exactly where I need it to be, and I love it. It's actually more comfortable than the bed I have in my house, which I'm starting to think I'm going to get rid of. I think it's time to get rid of sticks and bricks. Oh, that's good coffee. So then I started looking for more things that I needed. I knew that the stove was good. I knew that the sink housing that I have is good, but I ripped all the plumbing out of it. I ripped the fresh water tank out of it. I ripped the gray water tank out of it because the plumbing was shot. And it was just, it was built in 1977, so it wasn't that great as far as like convenience. There was like a pipe going across the floor and stuff like that. So I ripped that all out, and again, there's videos on all this stuff that I did. And then I bought my first refrigerator, which was a Coleman 12-volt piece of junk. I got screwed by some guy on Facebook Marketplace out of $50. And I had a buddy heater, and I took off. I left Tucson, Arizona in June of 23, and I made it to Durango, Colorado, I guess about 2 days. And I got into Durango, Colorado, and they offered me a job that I just couldn't say no to. So that put my van life on hold for about a year, and I just lived in Durango. And it was a good thing that it happened that way, because it gave me an opportunity to make some money. And it gave me an opportunity to do some of the things on the van the right way. I had to put the solar system in it already, but it was only 100 amp hours, and it was only 200 watts, maybe only even 100 watts. I didn't have the 12 volt system in yet. I really left too early. I didn't know what I was doing. And if I would have gone on the road, I probably would have come to a drastic halt, and not in a positive way. So I spent a year in Durango tinkering with this. I put the diesel heater in at that time. I put the new Hooperman refrigerator in at that time. What else did I do? I guess I already had the sink going on then. Put more solar up on the roof. I added another 200. Actually, initially I added 400 extra watts, giving it a total of 600 up there. But that really, the panels I got were walkable, and between Durango and Arizona sun, it just crushed them pretty quickly. So we got some new panels coming, but that's something else. Upgraded my charge controller. What else did I do? And then it just really became like the convenience things, like adding the storage here and here. I got my junk drawers hanging from the ceiling back there. I put the awning on. That was another thing I did in Durango. I put this awning on, which is great. You can't use it out here in Quartzsite, but that awning has made it through at least 2 San Juan Mountain hailstorms, and it still rock and rolls. I mean, it's still great. It's a ARB or ABE, whatever, ABF knockoff. I mean, it was $41, and I love it. I absolutely love it. In fact, I saw a guy that had one when I was driving through the LVTA about a week and a half ago, and he was having a little struggle putting it up, so I stopped and helped him put it up and gave him a couple tips. But anyway, after a year in Durango, I left Durango, headed down to Arizona a little bit to see some family, and then got a little bit of work done on the war wagon down at Tucson Trucks, and then we turned right around and headed back up into Colorado. Went and hung out in like Buena Vista, Salida, Leadville area for about a month or so. Then had a friend that I was going to meet in Morrison, Colorado, to go see String Cheese at Red Rocks. So me and the war wagon went out to Red Rocks in Denver, and then we had our legendary run up I-70 through the Eisenhower Tunnel. That, if you guys know that video, you know it took me all day just to make it up I-70 into the Eisenhower Tunnel, because we kept overheating. And then, but we made it. Then I got back into Buena Vista and Leadville. I hung out there for another month and a half for that summer. And then that's when the Alaska trip got proposed to me from David and Diana. So then we went down to Durango, and I stayed down in Durango for about 2 months, helping David and Diana build their Sprinter van and working on getting the 4Runner ready to do the Alaska trip that we just did in summer of 2025. And then after we got all that buttoned up, I headed down to southern Arizona. Was there for a couple, I was around Tucson and down towards Mexico, Bisbee. I love that area because you got higher elevation, so you can be there at the warmer times of the year, and it's still kind of cool. So I hung out there, did the tombstone stuff, did all those. And then I came out to Quartzsite, Arizona last December. And my initial thing was I was going to come out and hang out in Quartzsite for just 3 days. Film some videos. I wasn't even going to go to RTR. I wasn't going to do any of that. I just was going to come out here, film some videos, and get out of here, because in my head, I had it that this place was no bueno, that it was toxic as it's going around this year. And by the way, I got a video coming out on is Quartzsite toxic real soon. So make sure you click that bell for notifications that you know when it comes out. And subscribe if you haven't already, because come on, man, it's cool. All the cool kids are doing it. I initially got invited out here by another YouTuber who at the time his channel was called the Paper Bag Nomad, Raymond. He has now changed everything to the Resident Nomad. So if you haven't checked him out, go check him out. But I came out here and he invited me to camp with the Misfits. I met the Misfits and I ended up staying for like 45 days. Because everybody was just, everything I had expected the people to be in Quartzsite was wrong. You know, up until coming out here, all my videos were pretty much me. You know, there wasn't even another person in the background because I would go to places that you really couldn't find me unless you were looking for me. And then I got to come out here and I met Raymond and I met Zora and I met Mike and I met Ron and I met Paul and all these awesome human beings. I know I'm forgetting a lot of them, but I've met all these great people and realized that, you know, I had a prejudice in my head from my own prejudices, really. And then I left after, you know, 45 days. I had to go take care of some work, make a little bit more money before Alaska. I go back to Pennsylvania every May. I go back to see my parents and maybe get some stuff done. And then I flew into Kentucky last May. Met David and Diana, and we started on the Alaska trip. And there's a whole playlist for that. I'll leave that in the description. And if not, find the playlist. There's a whole playlist for Alaska if you're into that. And then we did that. That was about 55 or 60 days. I don't quite remember how many days it was. We did the Alaska trip. It was rough. It was a lot harder living in a Toyota 4Runner than it is hanging out in a war wagon, that's for sure. And then I got done with Alaska, flew back into Pennsylvania. Nope, flew back into Tucson. Meanwhile, we got a bunch of work done on the war wagon. You know, we had to get the transmission taken care of from that whole climb into Leadville. We had to get it freshen up on that. We had to get some work done on the motor. We had to get some work done on the brakes. Got some steering components changed. We did a lot of stuff to the war wagon. I did. Louise at Tucson Trucks did it, man. He rocks the war wagon. He's the guy that keeps the war wagon rolling down the road. So yeah, then anyway, I got done with that. Went back to Pennsylvania to meet a friend of mine, Greg, who you guys will see at some point. Or you might know him already because he's been on the channel. And his dog, Graham. And we hung out in Shamokin, Pennsylvania for about a month, packing up his house so he could sell it. Then we jumped in his 25-foot Coachman Freelander and cross-countryed out to here. Then I took the war wagon out, as you guys might remember, on the Reddington Pass run and dropped it in the hole and did a bunch more damage to it. So we got a bunch more stuff fixed on it. And then I headed out here. And we have been here since November, about a couple days before Thanksgiving. I really enjoy it out here. Like I said, Quartzsite is not what I initially expected it to be. I have made friends out here that I'm going to have forever. And I keep making new friends. You know, subscribers stop by the van and say hi and, you know, tell me that they, you know, thank me for making these videos. It's kind of crazy, you know, like I'm just a dude, a gnarly old dude in a gnarly old van, just living. And, you know, people are like thanking me for showing them how to do this or showing them what I do, you know, because I'm still learning every day. I mean, Schmitz, I'm learning all kinds of stuff, not just about van life and Quartzsite and traveling, but myself. Trying to, you know, improve on myself as be a better person, not maybe snap. You know, people that know me, man, I'm a redhead, you know. I got a temper. It's no joke. I don't try to hide who I am. That's, you know, I'm just trying to become a better person for no one else than myself. Because I went through my life as a pretty miserable person for a long time. You know, I'm not going to get into my life story here. If you guys want to know that, I'll do a video on it. But, you know, I don't know that it's all that entertaining, so. But anyway, Dan G, he asked a question, and I hope that's a pretty good rambling answer. You know, when it comes to rambling, I'm pretty good at it. And who knows what's going to happen. I know we got stuff coming up this year, 2026. Right now, we are tentative to be doing some campground hosting this summer. And unless something drastically would change, like I get 30,000 more subscribers that is going to be able to financially maintain me going through the summer, we're going to be up there doing some campground hosting for, well, it'll be at least June, July, August, and the early part of September. So that's the tentative plan right now. But I mean, if you can get like 50,000 of your friends to quick subscribe and watch the videos, maybe we'll be able to continue the van life thing all summer. But if not, we're going to be doing some cabin life at the campground. I will say this, it is the dopest campground I've ever seen. And that's just from seeing it on the internet. A friend of mine was there doing this job last year, and he was only there a few days, and he thought, man, this is the place for Brian. I don't want to go into too much detail about it yet because we got a long way to go, but I will say this. It is a campground like you've never seen before, most likely. All right, everybody. That's going to do it for this one. I hope I touched base on the questions that you had, and if not, please ask them in the comments. I would love to give you all the information I can, but there ain't a whole lot of information to give, you know, because like I said, I'm just a gnarly old dude in a gnarly old van. We're nothing special. But thank you, everybody, for tuning in and checking this one out. Thank you to Dan G for asking the question. We'll see you on the next one. Keep on vanning.